everybody, and welcome to another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. I am John Schmeelk. He is Howard Cross. The phone number for you is 201-939-4513. Hashtag Giants Chat on Twitter. If you want to get in touch with us that way, you certainly can. Mr. Cross, it's been a little while. How are you, bud?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Doing great. So we've talked some about the draft here, but I thought this might be a good time to kind of focus on free agency. We have no shows next week, so I want to make sure we get in a lot of our main topics here before we get our little break, and then we'll reset heading into the combine and the offseason when we get back from our week off. So obviously, Howard, the biggest decision the Giants are going to have to make this offseason is, or maybe it's not so much a decision, but the biggest negotiation that's going to take place is with their quarterback, Daniel Jones, who Joe Schoen has been very clear that they want back. Daniel said he wants to be back here, and then it's just a matter of figuring out the business end of things. So I thought today might be a good day to take a look at the quarterback picture kind of league-wide around the NFL.
Okay.
See kind of broadly where Daniel sits. And we're not going to be negotiating numbers here and, taking, roles and, trying to give people money or take money away.
It's just the market. The market
just
is the
try
market.
to figure out what the market is.
The market's the market. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to try to do here, and I thought it'd be a fun day to do it.
Okay. Take your shot. Go right ahead.
Okay.
I want to see what you come up with.
Okay. And again, I don't think we necessarily have to do like number by number rank, but we'll kind of put the guys into tiers.
Okay.
And kind of see where they sit. And I do think it's important right now, Howard, to set the parameters in terms of how we're doing this. So the way I want to do this, because theoretically the Giants are making a decision as to whether or not they're going to commit to Daniel long term for 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So the way I'm phrasing this is we're going to put these quarterbacks kind of into tiers based on how you think they're going to perform for the next 3 to 5 seasons. Which guy would you rather have for the next 3 to 5 years, okay?
All right, so you're going to basically start it out with Patrick Mahomes and Barrow.
Yes, so this is kind of how I've done it, and I'll start throwing names at you, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. Okay. These are the guys that I have, in my mind, fairly confidently ranked ahead of Daniel based on that criteria, okay?
Okay.
This is where I'm at, and you tell me
Daniel.
Yes, if you disagree with any of these that I'm going to throw at you.
All right.
Patrick Mahomes.
No, don't disagree.
Joe Burrow.
No.
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert. That's the guy in
the Chargers.
Yeah. I kind of disagree. I like Justin Herbert as an athlete. I like his arm. But he has way more talent, had a better offensive line, and even a better defense, and he's just not getting as much production.
Well, he had more overall production in terms of yards and touchdowns and stuff like that.
Does he get wins?
I mean, I think, how many wins did the Chargers have this year? What, 9? I think they almost had the same amount of wins as the Giants did.
So, I don't really put him above. Like, if we had those receivers on this team.
Okay, see, this is good. I like the disagreement. All right, good. So I have Herbert there. You don't. That's fine. Okay. Trevor Lawrence. Who would you rather have for the next 3 to 5 years?
Don't know. I think Trevor had a good year this year. I'm not sure what he's going to be the next 5 years.
Well, I'm not saying, but you're not sure what Daniel's going to be either. But if I made you choose right now, which guy would you choose?
I'm going to choose Daniel because I know he's going to get more weapons and he's going to get better.
All right. I will put
again, I'm basing mine not just on Daniel's play because he's a decent player.
Of course, yeah.
I'm basing mine on what he has to work with.
I totally get it.
Yeah, and when I see guys that have a cup overflowing of weapons around them.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah, I'm like, you got to be. That's when the Joe Burrows and the Patrick Mahomes and guys, like, they take advantage of all that, and they can do it. Pat can do it without all that.
No. Pat Mahomes is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
Joe can do it without blocking.
Yes, he has great receivers.
He has great receivers.
Yes,
but he can do it without blocking. So
correct.
I look at this stuff and I'm like, okay, well, what if you had the two guys? If you switched positions, would they have played the same way with no receivers?
Josh Allen.
I'd take Josh Allen over Daniel over the next 5 years. I think they can get a coordinator in there that can get him from freaking turning the ball over.
Get him back to what he was 2 years ago, right?
If you can do that, then
I'm with you.
He'll be a great player.
Lamar Jackson.
I'm going to say yes to Lamar Jackson. I think he's a step away, but he's on the injury train a little bit like Daniel.
100% I'm with you on that. Jalen Hurts. Now we're getting into closer territory now.
I'm going to say Jalen is going to be a yes as long as they can hold their team together. So you're saying the next 3 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. So I think they'll be able to hold their team together for the most part, receiver-wise and running back-wise for the next 3 years. Offensive line-wise, I don't know. Defensive-wise, I don't know. But for the next 3 years, he's got those receivers.
Got it. And then this is where I think we're going to have this disagreement. I have Prescott on the list.
Dak?
Yes.
Dak makes a lot of mistakes, man.
Well, he did this year. That had not his interception issues have not been there until this season.
Just hold on. I tell you about making mistakes.
No, go ahead. You got it.
Dak makes mistakes in the standpoint of when he plays the best quarterbacks, he usually loses, and he's not playing against that quarterback. And I don't understand that part of his game. I think when he plays teams he's supposed to beat, they beat him. When they play games they're going to be tight or they could have a chance to lose, he loses them most of the time. He just does.
I mean, he had the big win against Philly late in the year. He won a playoff game each of the last two out of the last 3 years.
Dial it back. He played Philly without their quarterback.
No, he did. Yeah, but they also put I think they put 40 points on that defense.
They did, but again, play without their quarterback.
Yeah, but he's not playing against the quarterback. He's playing against the defense.
I think that quarterback, when he's in the room, demands a lot of respect, and a lot of guys play differently for him.
All right, so those are the guys that I have ahead.
Okay.
You have disagreed with some of them. I'm going to throw other names out there now that I'm not. Let me just give me your thoughts on them, okay?
I like Jalen, but you know.
Okay, no, I know you do.
Yeah. Bam.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. I don't like Aaron Rodgers as a player. I don't.
I know you don't.
I do my best with him. For somebody who's gifted with such talent and he doesn't work at it, and that's just how I see it. I don't see him working with his players to make him better. He 2-time MVP just on arm talent alone. He's probably one of the best quarterbacks you'll ever see. But he harkens back to the day of Jay Cutler, that guy that had the big arm that could throw the ball.
Jay Cutler.
Hey, the dude had talented arm, right?
I know.
But you can't not support your team.
I get it.
I agree with
you.
Ability, yes, he's better than Daniel.
Next 3 to 5 years, you don't even know if he's going to be playing after this year.
He would not be. He's not making anybody's list.
Get it? Fine. No question. Here's an interesting one. Deshaun Watson.
That one I'd have to that's up in the air. I think Deshaun will get better over the next 3 to 5 years. I don't know if Cleveland will get better.
See, I have the question mark next to his name because I don't think you know. He hasn't. When he came back this year, he wasn't very good this year. A lot of rust.
More than rust is like he picked up the game for the first time.
Yeah. So I agree. I think that's kind of in the air. Kyler Murray, same deal, right? Coming off the knee, I think that's in the air too.
I don't give him. He could be in the air or not. I don't trust Kyler Murray.
Okay, that's fine. And frankly, I think I would lean in your direction on that too.
I don't trust Kyler
I'm with you on that. How about Matthew Stafford?
He won't be in the league in 3 to 5 years.
You think he's going to retire?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. There we go. He got his title. There we go. All right, here's an interesting one, and you might laugh that I'm asking this. Geno Smith.
Geno Smith.
Had a nice year.
I wouldn't take him over Daniel, per se.
But I think he's in the same group,
I think he's going to be in the same group. He's going to be around for the next 3 to 5 years.
With you. Agree. Okay. How about Derek Carr?
I don't even know where he's going to play. So I can't give him 3 to 5 years. He was a starter. It's supposed to we had a great year.
Right, but wherever he winds up, would you consider him to be around the same level as Daniel?
No.
Okay, you have Daniel ahead of him.
I think Daniel's ahead of him.
No problem. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Again, Daniel's ahead of him.
I agree. I like Carr better than I like Garoppolo, and I do have Daniel ahead of Garoppolo. Yeah. I agree with that. Ryan Tannehill.
Definitely Daniel.
Okay, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Tua.
Unfortunately, definitely Daniel, because Tua may not be in the league in 2 years.
The injuries,
yeah.
Agree 100%.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy.
I think Brock Purdy is a really nice story for this year, and he's an anomaly, and he will be back as a backup for the rest of his career.
I generally agree with you.
I'm just telling you. I mean, he's a great story.
I could see him winning the job and starting next year, though. That wouldn't shock me if he beat out Trey Lance for the job next year.
I got money says he won't even get close.
Okay. No money, but...
And I'm going to tell you why.
Yes, why?
Well, they draft Trey Lance because he has this great talent and all this ability, right? Mm-hmm. Trey gets the benefit of watching a guy manage the offense and not throw the ball into trouble, and he doesn't have his athletic ability to run like Trey has. So he's going like, okay, so basically throw it to the open guy, and we're getting plays designed to throw it to the open guy. Purdy never threw the ball in traffic almost.
Mm-hmm.
So
guys were wide open all over the place.
Yeah, so he gets to study and watch
debate.
this guy's reads. And they're going to call the offense the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I like I said, like Brock Purdy has a great story. I think that he will, be always going to be the guy that's going to be oh, man, if we get in trouble, we'll bring Purdy back in. But he's not an NFL
All right.
starting quarterback for unfortunately for him.
I'll just throw out some of the younger guys at you. Oh, wait, I forgot your favorite.
Who?
Kirk.
I wouldn't take it. I would take everybody over Kirk. I don't like Kirk.
Take everybody over Kirk.
I just look, man.
Wow.
Look, Kirk Cousins has done a great job of being with the right team at the right time and having phenomenal support around him. And I think that even if their defense played better, but Kirk should be dropping 40 points a game with those receivers. Thielen and Jefferson, those guys are almost top. The tight end is incredible. The running back is incredible. Everybody's great. His offensive line, it's pretty good. Why isn't he scoring 40 points a game?
Well, no one's scoring 40 points a game.
Because he ain't scoring because he can't. This is not him. It's like, okay. Oh, wow. Kirk's so great, man. I'm tired of Kirk, man. That dude done robbed y'all. He got y'all. Boom. That's terrible.
I'm not putting him in front of Daniel, by the way. But
I'm
I
not
had
putting
to
him
ask the question.
Like, everybody likes. Anyway, I'm sorry, Kirk. I don't mean to be like that against you, man.
Hating on Kirk. Kirk feels bad. All right, here's an interesting one. And again,
Okay.
I'm not saying I disagree one way or the other. Justin Fields.
Justin Fields has tremendous upside. I do mean tremendous upside. But in the next 3 to 5 years, they'll have to, quote unquote, build an offensive line, get another receiver in there to help him out. Because basically his game is now look, no one's open, run for your life. And that will not last for 3 to 5 years, as you can tell already, because he's not having like knee issues. He's having hamstring issues. And once your hamstring starts going, it goes at any time. You
Fair
can
enough.
never really like bring it all the way back. And if he's going to have to run for 100 yards a game,
For his life,
yeah,
too.
yeah, that's not 3 to 5 years sustainable for
All right,
him.
I think these are easy ones. We can breeze through these pretty quick. Kenny Pickett,
Who is that?
Steelers starting quarterback.
Oh yeah, I'm just joking. Now Daniel,
Russell Wilson.
Daniel,
Agreed.
did you know that Sean Payton threw Russell's quarterback coach out of the you're his personal quarterback coach?
I'm not familiar with that, but that's not going to happen here.
Here's your door.
That was pretty good.
Like, did you get your stuff? Did you get all your stuff when you were leaving? Because you ain't here. Basically, that was okay. I'm sorry.
How about your man, Mac Jones? Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Mac and Daniel would be similar, but Daniel is a much better athlete.
He
than
can
Mac.
run,
Yeah,
right.
Mac can throw the ball. He's pretty consistent with not a lot of help, but Daniel can run, so that gives Daniel the big edge over Mac.
Agreed. Okay, so net, and again, we don't have to put a number on it. Around 10. That's where kind of Daniel is in our little criteria here.
Yeah, he's basically around 10. I mean, he's a top 10 guy, even with with the way things are working and stuff. It's again, we'll see. The big thing will be next year for the Giants. Can they get some offensive linemen?
Right.
Okay. If they get a couple offensive linemen, that's great. Can they get one, possibly two receivers? Can they get like a true number one?
Or even a really good receiving tight end, too,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they could do that too in the draft. So so if you get those 2 or 3 games, it'll be great. But you're going to have to beat teams. So that'll be the big story on Daniel. And that's when Daniel will find out if Daniel's really the guy.
Yeah, no question about it. And just a couple things I'll say about.
And if Kefka gets hired away.
Yeah, and now he looks like he's one of the 2 or 3 finalists in Arizona, and Wink is still apparently a finalist in Indianapolis. Who knows what that owner is going to do?
So you start hiring people away, and you go from we're starting a new offense again. It looks good for everybody else, but the quarterback, it's like really imperative for him to be like so comfortable and understand what the overall objective and goals are of the offense, the coordinator. You can understand the plays, you can understand everything else, but okay, what's the overall objective and be in that? And I think Coach Dayball is going to really, be a big part of that, but it's still hard to do.
All right, so now I'm going to go through just some. Again, I'm not saying this is what Daniel should make. I'm just going through the top per year salaries at quarterback. Okay, just so people understand where we're at. Aaron Rodgers, $50 million per year.
No,
Russell Wilson. And again, I'm not saying this is what Daniel's going to make.
No, I'm just saying. I'll just say about the guy. I'm not going to say about Daniel.
Got it. Russell Wilson, $49 million a
As
year.
you can see, that was a mistake.
Kyler Murray, $46 million a year.
So far, everybody's wearing a mask.
Well, I'm sorry, 46.1 because he got 0.1 higher than Deshaun Watson, $46 million a year.
Yeah, so they're
fully guaranteed.
They're all wearing masks and they're like with guns holding people up.
Now Patrick Mahomes, 45.
Again, that was the market at the time. He was the highest paid guy. Yes.
No question. Josh Allen, 43. Good number for both sides.
Good number, I think, for there.
Derek Carr, who will probably shortly no longer be on this contract, but that'll be next week is the deadline for him. That's at 40.4.
He took it while he could get it. I'm telling you, that's great.
And that's what you do, right? Matt Stafford 40 on the dot. Dak Prescott 40 on the dot.
Delivered the Super Bowl. Nah, I'm sorry, Dak. You everybody in the country, including me, was like, pay the man his money. They paid you. You got to do something.
And Dak's 30 years old, by the way. So he has some time left.
Yeah, but he keeps getting everybody fired.
I mean,
Am I right?
He's only had 2 head coaches.
And how many coordinators?
Just one. Kellen Moore was the whole time until he just parted ways.
He's been there 7 years. Every 3 years, somebody gets fired.
You're funny.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's no. I mean, but that isn't that generally the. I mean, this is gonna be McCarthy's 4th year.
I'm still shocked by that.
Or is it 3rd year for him? I'm trying to think.
3rd year.
Is it 3rd year for McCarthy?
I think so.
You might be right. And Garrett was there forever before then, obviously. Kirk Cousins 35. Jared Goff 33.5.
I think Jared Goff should be making a little more.
Oh, I didn't ask you about Jared Goff. Would you put Goff in the same category as Daniel? I forgot that I've left him off the list for some reason.
Might be in the same category, but he's a talented player. He's
but Daniel, again, I think Daniel's athleticism pushes him.
It could push him, but Goff is like a super. I don't think people really realize how good Goff is. You know, he took a team to the Super Bowl before they traded.
That's my bad. I forgot about Goff.
Yeah.
Wentz at 32. Hi.
They should pay me some of that.
Matt Ryan at 30. Tannehill 29.5.
Should retire.
And then you get into the, other rookie contracts and stuff like that.
And Brady's name's on there.
Well, yeah, they just haven't taken him off the list yet.
Okay. Right.
And then, of course, this offseason you could see Burrow and Herbert both extended. And those numbers are going to start with at least 45.
I think Burrow, yes. I think Herbert, I think I'd put him down a little further in the contract mix, but he can say, like, if I'm not going to get the top money, then I shouldn't play. And my answer would be, you got to be the guy, though. You got to be the guy you got to be a difference maker. This year, Daniel was a difference maker.
And all those contracts, by the way, that are like, under 35, those are all signed, the Goff, the Wentz, and the Ryan and Daniels. Those were signed like 4 or 5 years ago. So most of the newer contracts have been above 35.
Yeah, and the smart thing to do, if you're Daniel Jones, is to take a 3-year deal.
Because then it resets the market in 3 years.
The market's going to be jumping through the roof. So you can take like hometown discount almost for 3 years. You can be making like right around $35 to $40 million a year, and that's really a discount for 3 years. Right?
Howard, that's exactly where my head is on too.
And then in 2 years, they'll be looking at you, and if you're doing well, you'll be like, okie dokie, guys, like, what we're going to do now? And then they're going to have to like open the purse and really pay you. And that's just the way the market's going to be set.
Yeah, and we'll see. And, maybe he'll prefer a longer term deal where it's more security. If
he does a longer term deal, you don't have to pay him as much though per year.
And you could spread it out more with the signing bonus and all that stuff, right?
After hearing those numbers, I can't believe Paul thinks it'll be around like 30, 32.
Yeah, Paul said it'll be between 30 and 32. And as Pearson can
that's almost left tackle
testify, the look on my face was quite precious.
Oh my God! Paul's usually good with keeping up with some of this craziness, bro. I guess he just let it go this time. Huh?
He let it go. Yeah. All right, so that's kind of where we are, folks. Just to kind of set the stage. We could talk about that or anything else you want to talk about now on the phones at 201-939-4513. But first, a reminder: go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. A lot of great interviews on there. Last one up there is Dane Brugler. I talked to him at the Senior Bowl. Great breakdown of the prospects there, and we'll get Dane again later in the year at the Combine, then again in a huddle closer to the draft, talking about these prospects. Later today, I'm talking to Rhett Lewis from NFL Network. We'll do some draft stuff. We'll do Super Bowl with him. He called the game at the Shrine Bowl, so we'll do a little bit with Rhett on that. And then we'll have good interviews coming up later in the week and next week as well. Make sure you go check out the Giants Huddle podcast. Search for it on your favorite podcast platform. Please subscribe, or you can just go to giants.com/podcast or the Giants mobile app to listen that way. All right, let's get to the phones here at 201-939-4513. Let's go to Luke in Michigan. He will lead us off first. Luke, what's going on?
Gentlemen, how you doing? Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to talk about how the salary cap is structured. I don't understand that on how it goes up every year and why we only have a certain amount.
What do you mean? Can you be more specific as to your question?
I understand what he's asking.
Well, Yeah, go ahead, Howard. If you could.
So basically, let's say the number is $100 million, which is not really $100 million, but we're going to say it's $100 million.
Do you want me to tell you what the cap's supposed to be this year?
Just hold on.
Okay.
Let me explain to him. So he'll
224.
Yeah, so we're going to go with a basic number of $100 million. So what the Giants did in the past years was like they spent every dollar of that because they're like, I need this guy, this guy, this guy. And if we had these 3 guys or 4 guys, we could be not just in the playoffs, but, Super Bowl contenders. So they spent the money. Once you spend the money, then you have to kind of let those contracts run out. So the Kenny Galladay's, Leonard Williams, Dory Jacksons, and those guys are like they're at the top of the list in their contracts, and they're kind of at the end also of their contracts. So they've spent the $100 million. In theory, I know the number's 224 or something. They spent the $100 million, and you have to wait a year or 2 before you can re-up again when those contracts kind of fall out. Hopefully you have 2 or 3 good rookie classes in that time. You're building your team, and that's why it builds. The reason why the Giants didn't have a lot to spend is because, and I'm not knocking David Gettleman by any stretch of the imagination, they felt like they were a player or 2 away from being in the playoffs and making a run at it, and they took a run at it and they didn't make it. Teams that you can get a good example of that or one team specifically would be the Rams. Well, they went after it and they spent all the money. They don't have draft picks, they don't have anything, but they got a Super Bowl. So that one Super Bowl is great for that one season, and the fans are happy. And then now it's going to be how long are they willing to suffer to wait to get themselves back in that position again?
And the reason the cap goes up every year, if this is part of your question too, is that revenue goes up. So the cap is a certain percentage of the revenue that comes in.
Yeah, it's a derivative of basically TV contracts.
Yeah.
Is the biggest portion, and radio contracts.
No, it's a much smaller portion.
Much smaller portion. And then your main sponsors, whether it's the Budweiser people or the Ford people or the Pepsi people.
For example, next year the Amazon, I think, contract kicks in or something like that. So that's going to bring a big bump in 2024, and then the other TV contracts go up after that. So it's going to keep going up and up and up.
And Microsoft Microsoft is like the
Microsoft Surface. Yep.
Yeah. So like all those guys are paying in tons and tons of money just to be seen on the sideline for those guys. A Tom Brady to smash a Microsoft tablet on the sideline. It's great for Microsoft.
Well, Microsoft's probably pretty happy that they won't have to keep replacing the Tom Brady tablets anymore.
I'm pretty sure, but at the same time, that gives them a new product, one that's harder to break.
Luke, does that answer your question?
That was fantastic. And then I had another one. I just learned from you guys previously that you have to wait to extend players on their rookie contract. Could you explain that?
Yeah, you cannot extend the player until after they're 3 years into their rookie contract.
And the reason why is that, let's say a player gets a 5-year deal. Usually they give them 4 years, and the 5th year is what do they call that year? The 5th year?
5th-year option.
5th-year option. So if you extend the guy in his 3rd year, you're trying to undercut the market before it gets really high.
Yes.
So we're saying that every 3 years the market kind of really takes another jump with the salary cap and TV contracts and everything. So you're trying to wait, and agents want to try to catch that time right when they know the contracts are going to be the highest, so they can do the next deal.
Yeah, and part of that rule I think too is when they set the slots in the draft too, right? Because remember they used to have to pay. Remember Jamarcus Russell got like $100 million when he first got drafted. If you allow these teams to give these rookies contracts really early, then guys can start holding out. Be like, well, slot us now, but then we want an extension 2 days later. Things like that. So,
trying to keep it all together. That's what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So then, one last thing is, do you guys think we're trying to extend people like Thomas and Dexter and Xavier and whoever else is on there, like coming into the last year on the rookie deal? You think we'll work that this year or wait till next year?
I think they can. And Luke, they appreciate the call. I think they'll probably focus on the guys that are free agents this year first. But yeah, I mean, look, Andrew's got 2 more years, so they can be a little bit more patient with him. And frankly, he might want to be more patient to see where the tackle market goes too, right?
Well, I think he's going to get the benefit of waiting till next year, because the market should be almost at the peak next year. So he'll have, they're like, oh yeah, okay, just play, stay healthy, because this year coming up, just have another Pro Bowl or the Pro Bowl year. Then they get ready to do your deal. They're going to try to come to you with an extension. They're going to come to him. He's not going to have to be waiting or going out to the market.
Right. And look,
whereas Dexter is going to be up, right?
Yeah, Dexter has 1 year left. So
Yes.
I could see Dexter being extended.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me. McKinney, he's going to want to be paid at the top of the market, I'm sure. And coming off a year where he had the hand thing and all that, maybe the Giants aren't comfortable yet. So that might be something that might take a little bit longer. But I think Dexter's the prime guy you would look at as someone that could be extended early.
Absolutely.
201-939-4513. Let's stay in Michigan and go to David. David, what's up?
Hey, guys. First, I got to tell you, yesterday's podcast, I was in the car when I think your producer said that they should rename the podcast Old Man Shaking Fist at Cloud.
Yes, that was Pearson. Yes. And yes, that was referencing Datino. That's correct.
Oh, wow.
I've known Datino for 40 years, and the coffee came through my nose.
I hope you didn't crash, dude.
That's terrible.
And Howard, just so you understand, Paul literally took the first 8 minutes of the show complaining that the Pro Bowl is not a real football game.
Because it's a flag football game.
Well, yeah, but he was complaining that it should be like a real football game where these guys go out and they like play hard, like it's a real
Paul
football
should put on
game.
some pads and play. He should actually get contacted.
Now the best part is I said to him, "So Paul, how would you feel if it was a real football game and Dexter Lawrence, got rolled up and tore his ACL?" He goes, "Well, I wouldn't like that." And I said, "Exactly."
I think somebody hurt their toe doing one of those goofy things.
Myles Garrett, he dislocated one of his toes. Yeah, absolutely, he did.
Yeah,
I'm sure Browns fans aren't thrilled about that.
I'm sure they were like, whatever that was, we're going to eliminate that.
So, listen, I just want to hit a couple of sort of, like everybody else, I'm hitting the reset button after what was a much better than expected season for us. So one thing, and then I have a question at the end of this, but one, I was never a fan of drafting Jones, number 6, but I am completely convinced that he should be our quarterback for the next 5-6 years at least, because, man, what he showed with the receiving room that he had and a still maturing offensive line as a group, man, if we can get those two things, move the offensive line to the next stage and get a better wide receiver room, I mean, I'm really impressed with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. And then I love Saquon, not only as a player, but everything you guys have told me about him as a person.
Mm-hmm.
But with the cap coming in $10 million less, I guess, than what people thought, I can't, from a business standpoint, commit $14 million a year to Saquon. I just can't do it, because if you take that 14, you're talking about maybe being able to sign 3 really solid free agents, or reserving it for some of these guys that we're going to have to pay, and extending them now. And I think if you beef up the wide receiver room and get another tight end, you're kind of in even a better place than you were relying so much on Saquon and dedicating that much money to him.
Yeah, look, David, and we've talked about the difficulty with running backs, and I think we get where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think I'll say this: if Saquon doesn't come back, you really need to add weapons then outside. Because he's like the one guy that if you can make a big play at any time.
So here's my big move, and you guys can agree or disagree. And then I have kind of a business question about the league too for you guys. But here's my big move. You look at the draft and where the Giants are drafting. Tell me that they are going to get somebody at that pick who's better and more impactful than T. Higgins. I would trade the pick to the Bengals for T. Higgins.
I think it would probably take more than just that pick, but probably not a second. You'll probably like a third or a fourth or something like that for one. Here's the issue with the Higgins trade, and I love T. Higgins. And again, we're not advocating the trade. He's the property of another team. We're not tampering. Just talking about Higgins as a player, right?
I don't think anyone cares if we talk about him. But go ahead.
You'd be surprised.
Really? Okay.
So he's a really good player. I'm just always leery of the guys you have to trade a draft asset for and then go pay. Because T. Higgins is going to want like $24 million a year.
Yeah,
he's a good player. He deserves it, right?
Yeah.
So you're not only then going to be using a draft pick to acquire him, you then also have to use a large chunk of your 10% of your salary cap space to pay him. So that's and again, I love T. Higgins, great player, but you have to decide whether or not that amount of resources to one guy, money, cap space, plus draft pick, is worth your bang for your buck there.
Yeah. So back to
Well, we've got it. We've got to improve the wide receiver room. Now, I got a quick business question for you guys.
Yes, and then you can make a Saquon take.
I'm trying to figure out why, and I'm sure there's a reason, why the free agency season starts way before the draft. Because from a team standpoint, I would want to go through my draft and then see what I need from the free agency pool.
Yeah, David, I agree with you, and I've always advocated that I prefer the way the NBA does it, where they have the draft first and then they have free agency start after the draft. The problem is this draft process is so long. Like, the combine's not until March. Then they have pro days, where if you're going to do all this stuff and you want to give the college players a chance to get healthy after the season, and you want to give the college players a chance to get healthy after the season so they can do all these things, I mean, you can't really have free agency in April or May. That's just too late, I think, in the offseason, right?
I don't think it has much. I think it's more of this. I think that it.
And thank you for the call, David.
Thank you. I think it's more of this. When it comes down to free agency, I think that you want to get what's your possibility of active players that you know are going to be that you can, not that you can't count on rookies or anything, but if I go pick up T. Higgins, I know I got a number one receiver, a healthy number one receiver, a guy who's played 90% of his snaps for his team, not for his team, but that has been called on. If you pick up a player in the draft, you got to I hope he's going to be healthy, number one.
He isn't necessarily plug and play.
Yeah, so it's there are a few guys. As far as the Saquon thing goes, I can understand why you'd be leery to give Saquon that kind of money. Here's Saquon's argument. Daniel Jones' success was based on me, because when I motioned to the right and he flipped like he was going to hand me the ball, the entire defense shifted with me.
That was the Viking game.
Yeah, and
or was it the Colts?
That was a lot of games.
That was a lot of games. No, you're right.
And then when I tuck the ball, and when he tucks the ball and runs, it's because the defense is following me to make sure that I don't have it. So his argument, that's what his argument is going to be the entire time, is that, look, you can say what you want to, and I'm not, disparaging Daniel, and that's what he's going to say, but look at the tape. Look at what's happening when he's doing this. Forget about me getting 3 yards in a cloud of dust or maybe breaking one for 40 or 50. Look at how I'm affecting the entire defense. And that's the argument of a player. Like, some players can argue, well, you haven't been healthy. And that's okay. Look how it looks like when I'm out there. And that's going to be the big – it's like watching Henry run. When Henry's in the game, it affects the defense.
And that's what it's going to be like with whoever drafts Bijan Robinson, too, because that guy's a monster.
Yeah, you're like, okay, how are we going to – is he going to catch the ball out of the flat? Now, what's going on? And that's why Christian McCaffrey's such a problem. You can try to cover everybody up, but okay, where is he now? Is he really in slot? Can you get somebody over there? He pretends like he's coming in, and all of a sudden he's running around.
Now, I will say this. McCaffrey, I think, is a little bit different, right? He was a
tier
1,000-yard rusher and 1,000-yard receiver. Like, Saquon has not done that yet.
He can't. He could, but Saquon's thing is going to be, he's a decent receiver, but he's got to be a better route runner. When he becomes a better route runner
and catcher of the football.
Yeah, well, again, when you're better, I think he has decent hands. I don't think his body's always in the right spot.
That's a great point.
So, right, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes he's already out to his position, but he doesn't know, or he hasn't, gotten the feel of, okay, I need to slow down so I can get my shoulders in the right position so I can get my hands on the ball. Sometimes he'll run backwards a few steps. And I was a victim of that, because I was like, okay, I'm open, like, slow down. Like, realize that you're open, slow down so you can get the ball. And sometimes you're like, you think you're going to get it right at that moment, and it doesn't come out at that moment, whether the quarterback is looking the other way. If you're the check down, it makes you the second or third receiver. All that stuff is going to be things he'll get better at it, even this part of his career, because he's had a year and a half of being limping around and stuff, and now he's, like, getting healthier.
Let's go back to the phones, but first, a reminder, go check out the Giants' official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Also, Giant fans, take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2023 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit Giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. We've been talking about free agency, Daniel Jones, kind of, putting him in that kind of second tier of guys, in that kind of 10 to 12, 10 to 15 area, somewhere in that, second tier, and exactly what that might look like in the offseason. And Joe in Pennsylvania wants to talk about it. Joe, what's going on?
Absolutely. What's up, Joe?
Hey guys. Yeah, you're talking about a lot of stuff that I'm interested in. Number one, I missed the very beginning. Did you mention Hurts? Do you think he's in? I know he's in a rookie contract yet.
Yeah.
Would you, if you had the choice, would you rather pay him or Daniel for your starting quarterback?
Howard and I both
know he has everything over there, but I personally think Daniel's a better throwing quarterback.
Yeah, if you just want to talk about a thrower, maybe. But I think in totality, Howard and I both put Hurts slightly above Daniel in that hierarchy. It's not super far away.
Yeah, I think Daniel's got a lot of comparable attributes as Jalen. I think one of the things that Jalen has right now that Daniel probably still would like to have, he commands a room. Like, you could tell the guys really respond to it.
I'm not saying that, but he has everything set up. I could just about play quarterback for the Eagles. He throws the ball up there a lot of times to Brown if he, because of his size and everything.
No, look, Joe, he has a really nice roster. There's no argument. He has a great roster around him.
But his receivers
tight end is so big too. He's always open. And then the other guy, what's the other guy?
Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, I mean he's open a lot, and then throwing out of the backfield from the backs. Then I'm just saying he really does have a nice setup that I think you could put Jones right in that.
Oh no, look,
situation.
Joe, if you're telling me, like, would I be shocked if you just waved the magic wand and switched rosters with the two guys, that Jones would be just as effective in Philadelphia? Is that possible? Absolutely. I just haven't seen it.
Right. Well, I'd like to see. Well, when the Eagles have less, I think this year is his last year, and then they'll have to pay the Eagles. Then they won't be able to get all these extra guys and stuff. They have a lot of guys up this year for contract. Their big guard, I think Sanders is there. There's a lot of good players that they're going to have to pay. And once they pay that Kurt, they ain't going to have all that. That's why I like to see them lose this year. You know what I mean? And it's going to hurt them. Now, Howard, what you were talking about there too with Saquon, and how he gets the defense to go with him. But I was thinking if we still build up that offensive line and we had a wide receiver that could go deep, then maybe them safeties and stuff wouldn't be up there as much. Would you prefer, I'm just saying, would you think a better offensive line to put the money into and a wide receiver that could bust you, or would you still rather have Saquon and put the money to him?
I think that you have to be realistic in what you need on the offensive line. You're probably thinking about right now a center and two guards or something.
Yeah, at least the center. We might be able to get away with them guards because Benson played pretty good. I heard. Did you say yesterday or someone say in the second half?
That who played pretty well?
Benson
in the second half.
Oh, Bredesen. Yeah, he was okay.
Yeah, like I said.
Someone said he only gave up one sack or something the second half of the season.
Yeah, but remember, sack numbers aren't everything either.
Yeah, so I think.
No, okay, but I
think
whatever.
I think in watching
saying.
the game, what you're commenting on, it's like you need someone to make up for a lot of holes, right? So if you're going to try to fill the holes, like we're going to fill the entire offensive line, we don't need the back. We're going to partially fill the offensive line, but we're going to get a big-time receiver. Big-time receivers are great, but if you can't block for them to be open, then you're in trouble.
Yeah,
That's what I said. Right now, it's a little bit of both. It's the devil you do or the devil you don't. That's pretty much where you are.
I was just wondering, right, because there's a lot of good receivers there. Evans, you know what I mean? There's a real good receiver from the Bengals. I forget their names, and the other one is from the 49ers. There's good players out there and that they might not be able to pay them that we could trade for. But then I don't think, like John said, I don't think we're going to be able to pay a number one receiver and play Barkley plus, you know what I mean, everybody else we have coming in there plus Jones. You know, it's going to be tough. That's why I can't wait till the Eagles have to pay up. So
there's really only two guys out there.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. There's really only two guys. The guys are really targeted, I think, in free agency as receiver, unless somebody's, kind of like one of the guys that we have on our team, the James or somebody that all of a sudden they show up and they go, I didn't know they were that good kind of moment.
Right.
When you target the guys that that are guys you got to give up a lot for, I just think that the more draft picks you have, the better opportunity you have to fill your team, and the more rookie contracts you have. If you draft properly, you can go further. I think the free agents are here as stopgaps. You want one or two that are, I guess you want them to contribute, but if you bring a guy in and you pay him a lot of money and you need him to play and he can't get it done because of injury or whatever else, you have spent a lot of money, and it's nothing you can do to kind of fix it almost.
Yeah, I just don't know if they're going to be able to go to the top of the market at guard or center and spend that type of money on an upgrade there. I think maybe you can find upgrades, but it's going to be kind of in that mid-range type of area. And frankly, again, I know people will get mad at me. I thought Nick Gates played well at the end of the year.
I thought Nick played very well.
So if they want to bring him back and let him compete at left guard and center, look, do I think the interior of the offensive line was great last year? No, I don't. But I thought, especially at the end of the year, Howard, I thought the bigger issue was at right tackle than it was inside.
Yeah, I think when Evan Neal got hurt his knee, and he sat out for I don't remember how many games.
4 or 5.
4 or 5. Then they put the brace on him and brought him back. The first 3 or 4 games, that guy couldn't get out of his stance, but he was fighting. And I'm like, I said, guys, I mean, I don't know who else we got out there, but if he can't really get out of his stance, you could see it like a guy would stop. If he was already stepping out on that leg, he had no way to change direction. And then towards the end, he turned it on. Like he did all right in the Washington game. He played pretty well. He played okay in the Indianapolis game. Mm-hmm. The Indianapolis game was probably the worst. The Washington, he got better. The Indy game, he was pretty good. Then the last game of the season, the Eagles game, they didn't play, I don't think, at full tilt in that game, but he played very well in that game. Mm-hmm. He went out to Minnesota, no issue at all, played really well. Minnesota's defense, we thought we were going to feast on him. He played well. And then you get to the Philadelphia game, the last game of the season, the playoff game. I think the entire offensive line was struggling. But it wasn't it wasn't like he was getting beat.
Frankly, most do against the Eagles. I mean, it's the Eagles. They were really good.
They were getting 4 guys with 10 over
and
10
look,
sacks.
And Neal didn't give up a sack against the Vikings, but I thought he did a good job of pushing the guys around Jones.
Oh, he did a good job
technically, I think he allowed pressures, but Jones did a good job stepping up in the pocket.
But that's the bubble, though. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
He did his job pretty well. And I like I said, what I look for with him isn't so much the push around. Is can he change direction? How strong is his knee? Early in the season, he was getting beat, but it was because he was overextending. Then when he hurt his knee, he couldn't change direction, and that's when he kind of struggled.
All right, I'm going to throw some. He mentioned Jones and Hurts, so I'm just throw some raw numbers and rankings at you, just so people understand where we're at.
Yeah.
So this year, passing yards per game, and I will get to the next call in a second. We do have an open lines, by the way, if you want to get in at 201-939-4513. Daniel, 15th in the league this year with 3,200 passing yards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Passing touchdowns, tied for 21st with 15.
Mm-hmm.
Completion percentage, 6th at 67.2%.
Okay.
Quarterback rating, he came in at 13th at 92.5.
Mm-hmm.
Interceptions, if I can get the ranking here, he came in at...
He's going to be way up.
I'm looking for him. He's not even in the top. This goes bad to good.
Oh, he's going to be he's probably top 3.
What did he finish with, Daniel? Intercept 6?
5 or 6.
Yeah, so he's not even in the top 25.
Yeah, they're not going
in terms of most interceptions thrown. Here's some of the numbers that aren't so good. Passes that of 25 plus yards completions, only 15, and that ranks him below 25th.
15 out of what? How many did he throw?
Well, I don't. Well, that's just passes that gained 25 yards. So it can even be a short pass or a run.
So that's not Daniel.
Well, again, I'm just throwing numbers out there.
I know, but we do realize that's not
Yes.
Daniel. Yeah.
If you want to go to some more advanced numbers, he had one of the lowest average depth of target in terms of throwing down the field in the league. So he didn't throw down the field a ton. Then if you go to some of ESPN's more advanced metrics, QBR, which takes running into consideration as well as passing, he was 6th at 60.8. EPA, which is expected points added per play, which is kind of an overarching number, he came in at 6th at 81. From the pass perspective, in terms of, I think, EPA, he came in at 13th. From a running perspective, he came in 4th. So those are the types of numbers you're looking at. So you're kind of bouncing between, 5 and 15 with a couple outliers on either side, which is why I think we're putting him in that 10 to 12, 10 to 13 type of area there. And that's kind of what we're looking at. So there's good and there's bad there, and you kind of have to figure out what to do.
Well, I know that there's good and there's bad, but there's really not as much bad as you think. You can only work with what you got.
Of course. And look, the talent around him is going to impact all those numbers.
So like Slayton wasn't even a thought during training camp. Then all of a sudden, 4 games in, he becomes a receiver for the team. Kenny Galladay, much below, everybody's beating on him, whatever, but he never got himself started. James was like the leading receiver for the season. Who was the kid that came on late in the season, caught all the touchdowns? Hodgins came off somebody's practice squad to be the touchdown leader for the team, a receiving touchdown. So and then when your tight end started to have a little bit of a run, he gets his eye socket broken, so he's out for like 4 or 5 weeks. So he did okay. I thought that he did okay with what he had, and I don't want to give him a lot of excuses, but good quarterbacks make what's around them better, and he did a good job of doing that this year.
Let's go to Hugo in New Jersey. He's up next. Hey, Hugo.
Hey, John and Howard. How are you today?
Hey, Hugo. How we doing?
Good.
I'm doing good. Hey, John. By the way, your draft coverage and draft season is really outstanding. It's a must listen for anyone who's a draftnik. One thing I'm wondering about is it just going to be you and Pauline this year, and Eric Crocker's no longer?
Yeah, unfortunately, Eric opened up a gym, and he's training kids down in Arkansas where he's at, and he's had to put a lot more time into that. So he's stepping aside for now. We hope to get him back at some point. He'll probably join us for a couple shows here and there. But for now, it'll be just Tony and I moving forward for the next couple of months, and then we'll kind of reorganize and try to figure it out.
I'll be around. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah, we can have Howard on a couple times, then maybe we can, give Howard some homework assignments, watch some players, and we'll get his take.
Yeah.
Well, you guys really do. You guys really do an outstanding
Well, thank you.
job.
Well, by the way, you can find draft season on all popular podcast platforms or in the Giants app. Go ahead, Hugo. Appreciate the promo.
Cross marketing.
Yeah,
Well,
terrific.
You guys have sort of hit on this a bit, and the center position seems to be getting a lot of buzz recently. And I actually saw a couple of mock drafts that have centers to the Giants in the second round. So I really want to dig in a little bit here.
Sure.
And really figure out how big a need that really is. And I'll start with sort of a weird question, which is let me preface by saying that I think everyone recognizes that John Feliciano was more of, what Parcells would call a hold the fort down kind of guy.
Yeah, sure. 1-year contract, absolutely.
So who backed them up early in the year when Nick Gates was rehabbing and Sean Lemieux was rehabbing as well?
Early in the year, Lemieux was he healthy early in the year? I'm trying to remember.
No, he wasn't.
Bredesen was probably one of the backups at center, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Let me look that up, Hugo, but I'm pretty sure it was Bredesen. But let me double check that.
Yeah.
So Bredesen is. I would kind of term him as an ascending player, certainly an improving player, and definitely viable for competition and depth, I would say. But then the question becomes one about Nick Gates, and maybe you can remind me. Towards the end of 2020, with almost a full season under his belt at center, was Nick Gates playing the center position at a high level? My perception was yes, but I'd like to get your opinion.
Well, it wasn't a Pro Bowl level. But he was
not at.
In my opinion, he was a starting level center.
better than average?
Yeah, he was better than average.
I would put him
Better than
around.
average.
I would put him around average.
He was playing a little bit better than average.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Average to above average. How about that?
And that was his first year as a starting center. And so I remember one interview you did with Nick John, and he said essentially that during his rehab, he got his upper body stronger, but that I'm paraphrasing, there was still a bit of a gap on his lower body that he needed to work on in the offseason.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. Because
right?
he said while he was hurt, all he could do was lift and do bench, and he couldn't probably do the power lifts because that involves your legs and everything.
You couldn't do curls, you couldn't do extensions, you couldn't do squats.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
There's just a lot of stuff you can't do.
So I think you see where I'm going with my questioning as I dig into it a little bit deeper. I think Nick Gates might be a viable option, and we, still have a lot of holes on the roster.
Yeah, Hugo, I agree with you. By the way, I'm with you on that.
And that's what we said a little earlier. If you missed it.
Yeah. To spend a second-round pick, and really to bring in sort of a mid-tier free agent like another Glowinski type. I mean, what does that really do for you? Is that really an upgrade? Is what I'm getting at. I think Nick Gates, with an off season of training his lower body, he's not rehabbing, he's actually training.
Right.
And playing at his best position, because he actually played pretty well even at left guard, although I think we all agree that center is his best position. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Again, I won't say either way because I got to seem healthy.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I think we may have an economical and pretty effective solution in-house as opposed to spending resources.
Hugo, Nick Gates also a free agent. Mm-hmm. So you have to re-sign him.
Yes. Right. So, you let Feliciano go and you try to get a decent deal done with Gates. Now, the thing about Gates is because of his horrific injury, it goes back to Joe Shane's comment, we know the medicals better than someone outside.
Right.
So you got to wonder what kind of market there is, for someone who doesn't know the medicals as well as we do. But that aside, I think we can get him at a reasonable price, and he could be an effective option. And plus, he's a dog, right? He brings the attitude, and you need one of those guys.
He does.
He definitely has the attitude.
Thank you, Hugo.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate the call, man. There was a guy at Senior Bowl that was like, if Nick Gates, they took part of his leg and they made a clone of him. The Senior Bowl, Cody Mock out of North Dakota State. The guy literally has no two front teeth. Nick Gates has all his teeth, but he's got the long hair. And like Gates did in training camp, he had the jersey pulled up
over the belly,
with the big belly
over
hanging out. I'm like, dude, he's like North Dakota's Nick Gates.
Who was the best standout lineman that you saw at Senior Bowl?
You want guard or inside? Inside. Osiris Torrance from Florida. Big 330-pound dude, strong, really powerful. Once he got his hands on you, you were done. He was at Louisiana Lafayette for a long time. Then he followed Napier from there to Florida and played 1 year at Florida this year.
So he played guard or center?
He played guard. Steve Avila from TCU, big, another 6'5", 330 guard. He actually snapped at Senior Bowl too for the first time. They tried him at center a little bit.
Saw him.
Cody Mock was another guy who I just mentioned from North Dakota State. He was a tackle at North Dakota State, but he is short arm, so they think he's going to get moved inside in the NFL. And then the best pure center was John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota, probably an early second round type of pick. He was very good.
Okay, all right. We'll see.
I think there'll be a lot of day two walk-in starters. That was a pretty good offensive line group at the Senior Bowl. I thought they did a nice job.
Well, that doesn't account for all the juniors that are coming out.
Correct.
That's where the Senior Bowl's great. It was a lot of fun, but they're gonna have to figure out a way to incorporate some of those guys that if they're coming out, try to get them involved somewhere.
Sure. I tell you what though, there are fewer underclassmen this year than we've had before because guys are staying in for the NIL deals. Because they can make a little money in college.
Well, they know. Well, a lot of them are staying in for NIL deals, and they're staying in because they hit the transfer portal.
Or that, 100%.
Once they hit the transfer portal, they go over to a team they think they can play a little bit more, make a little bit more for NIL,
and then boost their draft stock.
And boost their draft stock. Because nowhere before no time in history before could they do this at this level. Like you could be a starter. You could be doing really well in your conference, and you can go to another team that with a higher profile that needs a starter, and you could be the guy. Case in point, the West Virginia Wake Forest quarterback who left Wake Forest and now is at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
He was
gosh.
He's all AC.
Highland.
Yeah.
Highland, is that his name? Brett Highland.
I
maybe?
think so. He's all AC at West Virginia. I keep calling West Virginia Wake Forest, leading the ACC, and all of a sudden he goes, okay, I can go to Notre Dame and double down on this, and he left and went to Notre Dame.
Yeah, no, it's not Brett Highland.
It's something else. Just go.
Kyle, no, that's not him either. I will have to figure.
You have to figure it out, but that's the guy I think of. Because he can mess around and be a top draft pick next year.
Yeah, no question about it.
All
right,
that's gonna be interesting.
Tyler Buckner?
No, I'll look it up. Let's go to Len in Columbia, Maryland. He'll wrap us up. Len, what's going on, pal?
Yeah. Hey, John, thanks for taking my call 2 days in a row here. I appreciate it.
No problem.
I like
Sam
the way you
Hartman,
Howard...
by the way. I'm sorry, Sam Hartman.
Sam.
I had an H right. That was about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Sam,
Len, go ahead.
Okay, you're talking about the Notre Dame guy?
Yeah. I couldn't remember the damn
We should have asked you because we were like calling him everything.
Yeah. Well, Howard, they also got a guy out of Nashville, a freshman, Minshaw, who was very highly thought of as well.
Okay.
But I like the way, John, you and Howard broke down the Jones thing, and you got it down to, eight guys maybe, if I remember the number correctly, and I started jotting down, if I was going to trade Daniel, who would I trade him for?
Right.
And it was probably the same 8 guys. It was literally the same 8 guys. But here's my point. Geez, you're starting to talk big money. I mean, if you put him in with those 8 guys that you came up with...
Well, again, I wouldn't put him in the same category. I would put him in a category below a lot of those 8. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing.
If he's 8, but Howard, even if he's number 8 or 9, John, you're talking high 30s at the least.
Yeah, but think of it this way.
Yeah. Honestly, probably yes.
But you have to think of it this way. Quarterback is a marketable position. That's what they're doing. They have to go on the market of what they're going to pay the guy. If you want to drop it back down to a number that you think is reasonable, you're going to have to hopefully get somebody in the draft.
Yeah.
That's really the only way to combat the quarterback thing. The only
quarterbacks cost money.
The only quarterback who did it in history was Brady. Brady took less throughout his career.
And he had a billionaire wife who was, fashion mogul.
Yeah, but he took less to win Super Bowls.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He took less to have more guys, keep more of his guys on the team.
And that wasn't until he got older. That wasn't his first contract.
Yeah, but he did it like early on. He tried to keep Butler and all those guys on the team, and he got mad when they would get rid of him. And
that did happen.
Yeah,
You're right about
so
that.
he's like, if I'm taking less money for you to keep these guys, keep my guys. So that is foreign to everyone because no offense, but the Players Association don't want it. They want you to make as much money as possible constantly.
Sure.
So do the agents.
And the agents want you to make as much money as possible because you just want to keep moving the needle. If you start giving hometown discounts and all this other stuff, then they get upset because you're upsetting the way that they structured the rise of the salary cap. So Daniel's going to get what the marketable moment's going to be. Well, if he was tagged as a what do you call it? What do you tag the guy?
Franchise tag.
A franchise tag. It would be basically $40 million.
Franchise tag is 32 this year.
Oh, it'll be 32.
32.
So it's $32 million. But
remember, then that would all be in one year though, which is a huge salary cap number for anyone.
So if you do whatever you do with him, like I said, if I'm Daniel, I want 3 years. I don't want 5. I don't want whatever. And you get 5. I could pay you less. I don't have to pay you 40. I could pay you 35.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at that type of 3-year deal like Howard's talking about, you're looking at 3 years more than 100. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, John, that 32. I think that's the non-exclusive tag.
Yes, that is
correct. I think
correct.
if you go exclusive, it's probably a little higher. It's probably 36.
Yeah, but on the non-exclusive tag, though, Len, a team would have to then, if you lose him, you would get 2 first-round picks. But you also have, and you also have the right to match. Right. So it's not like he's out there
absolutely.
free. You know.
All right, let me say one last thing, and thanks again for taking my call.
No problem.
I'm not sounding desperate here when I say this. But if we don't sign Daniel, we get worse, John.
Oh no, absolutely, Len. He's going to be back. Look, worst comes to worst, it's going to be the tag. So he will be here. It's just a matter of what it looks like.
Oh, so you think we would use the tag on Daniel more than we might use it on Saquon?
Well, I think Daniel's more of a priority just because of the position that he plays. You know what I mean? And look, I don't think they want to use the tag on anyone because that makes your salary cap very rigid. Look, Giant fans all say, we got $50 million in cap space. Well, you take 32 and just lop it off, you almost have nothing at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
No problem. Appreciate the call.
And the only thing is that if there are teams out there with a lot of draft picks, and I mean a lot, like you got 2 or 3 first-round picks, whatever, and they have to quote unquote franchise Daniel, and everybody's like, hey, look, we're a quarterback away. We know what this kid will do versus, drafting somebody Bryce from Alabama.
Dude, the nightmare scenario is the Jets.
Yeah, that's
they have a good team.
And if they got how many draft picks next year? They don't have a lot though. Do they have a lot of first-round picks?
They have their own picks. They don't have any extra ones anymore.
Yeah, but if they had 2 first-round picks or something like that, and they're like, hey, look, we're a quarterback away, that'll be hard for the Giants to say no to. I love Daniel and everything, but if, hey, look, we're going to get 2 first-round picks for him, then you got 3 first-round picks. I don't think there's a quarterback this year, and I'm not knocking the 3 guys that are at the top, and I love the Bama guy, but this is New York, and it's going to be chilly, and there are going to be some big dudes hitting you.
It's going to be chilly.
Yeah, so
it's going to be chilly.
Yeah, it's going. But it's
great category.
Yeah, but like if you come to
different.
Yeah, if you come up here, you got to be built for it, and like some guys are
literally physically built for it.
You got to be built for
yes.
it, and it's like that's a big task for guys. So
all right. Before we say goodbye, Howard, give me your thoughts on the Super Bowl, then we'll say goodbye.
I think that the Eagles have a really good team. I think they have a good defense. I think that they're a little bit more methodical, though. And I think the problem is that you got to be able to somehow, some way, slow down Patrick Mahomes. If he gets out and he scores twice really quickly, and the Eagles are a good team, they're going to have to throw the ball at a high rate. I'm not sure they're built like that.
I agree. I think Sirianni, and I'm going to be on later in the week, so I'll be really quick. I think Sirianni has to be willing to stick with the run game because I think that's the best part of what the Eagles do. Quarterback and running back.
Yeah.
Do your whole running package. I think
them off the
if
field.
Steve Spagnuolo can turn this into a Mahomes versus Hurts passing game, advantage Chiefs.
Yeah, I think Kansas City's defense is a lot better than people give them credit for.
Oh, no, their defense is pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it'll be a good battle. And I think, unfortunately, as someone that would not like to see the Eagles win another Super Bowl, I think push comes to shove, I think the Eagles are better on the offensive line and defensive line. And I think that, in the end, will push the game. And I got to imagine they're going to come out and do something with Kelsey and not let Kelsey beat them.
Well, if 1 or 2 of the receivers are healthy for Kansas City, it's a hard thing to stop him.
I think the Eagles would trust their corners to cover and try to take Kelsey out of the game with doubles.
Big ask.
No, it's a big ask. Hey, look, but that's why these are the 2 best teams, right?
Big ask.
Ain't gonna come easy.
The running backs are pretty good too.
Hey,
big ask.
Good stuff, Howard.
Good stuff.
Howard Cross, I'm John Schmeelk. Again, we are off next week on Big Blue Kickoff Live, so don't freak out if you don't see any shows. We need a break. We gotta take a deep breath. We'll come back and we're ready to go. We'll see you tomorrow, 12:30, Big Blue Kickoff Live. Until then.